happening. But in Soto Zen tradition, I'm not sure in Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition that we have a custom in North America, especially, to chant this before Dharma talk. So if you don't mind. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of Tathagata's truth. Thank you. Oh, such a pleasure meeting you. Oh, I kind of want to take a picture as this is. I hope we'll have a chance later. My name is Gyokei, Yokoyama. Gyokei is my Dharma name. That was given from my grandfather. Yo means practice, Kei means respect. So, however, I grew up as the youngest of the family, so I have a little contradicting nature, but that's been my theme of the practice. But just this time during this visit, I have been communicating with the people in Vancouver area and Alberta, and I realized a lot of people go by the regional name, and my official Canadian nickname is Yuki, so please call me Yuki. I hope that works. Such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you. And congratulations to sort of be the first anniversary of the Sangha of going as a river, almost.
No, we're about 3 months in.
3 months in. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, happy 3 months anniversary.
First quarter.
First quarter. That's great. Well, Rocky Mountains and started with Aaron. He reached out to me once that's his birthday, as you probably know. He reaches out to people, and it's been my aspiration to reach out to support Canadian Sangha since I was, it's hard to say. I was in Winnipeg back in 1996. Well, I wasn't thinking of the mission at the time. I was an exchange student. Then I came into this path in year 2000. So right before I went to the AH monastery, actually went back to Winnipeg, spent a good chunk of time there. Maybe that was a mistake. I went to the monastery and I had a pretty difficult time readjusting my view on Buddhism. There's a long story. I'm going to skip the whole part of it, but there was a good chunk of time, like probably 5-6 years, I stepped away from the temple life itself. Didn't wear any of this. That happened after my food training was over. So, but then I came back to my home temple. The first thing I did was I came back to the United States. I'm not sure if you know Bonnie Glassman, who is one of the Zen teachers at the time, and learned the word socially engaged Buddhism from him for the first time. I didn't realize that it was coming from Thich Nhat Hanh lineage, of course, at the time. I went back to my hometown and taught English to children from 6 months old all the way to 75. So both people of different reasons came. And that somehow led me to helping out immigrants' kids from Peru and Brazil in collaboration with Christian churches in the area. And somehow that led me to a political life as a city councilor. So it's been a little bit of a, not going as a river. I was kind of being floated through the river as a river. That's right. So lots of life I wouldn't say it's mistakes, but taken risks. And all this kind of accumulation of this karma led me to North America after I served my own temple in Japan for a while. Then came here. It's been 10 years. And I started off was my son, who was born in 2013, was born with Down syndrome. So for the first several months, we stayed I sent official resignation letter to my organization that I'm not gonna do this. I'll stay here in Canada and take care of my son. And I sent my apology letter to the temple, who offered me the position back then in Long Beach, California. So this is a story in Canada, in Ontario. He was lucky to have a good, what do you call this? The cardiologist in sick kids in Ontario, and the surgery went well. And I was starting to sign up for a second ESL teacher's position for TESOL in Ontario, and then staying at one of my what's now my son's mom's friend's house. And that's when the California Temple still reached out to me, said they asked me if we are still interested in going. So yes, I still have a little bit of mixed feeling, but I was about to submit a permanent residency application, which otherwise probably have gone through, and then kind of dropped it and then went to the United States. So that happened 10 years ago. And that's where I was appointed as a Soto Zen missionary. And there are 59, I believe, of them in North America. And so just as many Japanese priests or missionaries of my nationality go, I started serving Japanese American community who went through internment camp. I've been learning the history of the people who were relocated to Alberta from Vancouver area. So it's a little different story. So yes, and just first forward 2022 and 2023, our organization, Soto Zen Buddhist organizations, celebrating its 100th anniversary of its mission. So it's been exactly 100 years since the first temple was built in 1922. So I was fortunate to be involved in the translation project of Reverend Hosai Nisobe, who came from Japan to Los Angeles, and how it started. They had to buy this property. They had a huge debt first to pay it off. But that's all kind of story of reality in Sangha. And then plus there was a movement to expel the Asians back then. So it was a difficult time. In any case, it's during these 100 years, the main focus of our organization has been North America. There's a branch offices in Europe, branch office in South America, and Hawaii, each serving the Japanese American community. But this last November, and this May, we have another celebration which concludes a whole series of events. We made a declaration that from the ethnic community-based mission, right from the beginning in 1922, there's a clear evidence that people are looking beyond the community of our ethnicity. So this is a threshold we're kind of stepping over to reach out to a wider network of sanghas, mahasanghas. So this, as a part of it, I've been kind of mentioning that we are North American. And by the way, I serve as one of the 2 secretaries of Soto Zen office in LA, a branch office. It's bureaucratic. That kind of helps me to be kind of travel and visit different sanghas. And then one of the things, my personal aspiration was to reach out and get support Canadian sanghas. And I have to tell you, I've been frustrated with this the whole time. My Japanese friends, American friends don't realize it. You have to come to Canada, right? So that's kind of what's been motivating me to come here. And that was the time, that's around the time, it's just before the 100th anniversary, Aaron reached out to me. It's like, oh, finally there's a Canadian guy interested. And I came over and did a service, right? You did a Gyokei, precept ceremony, and novice ordination. Quite a risk we took, yes. And that's kind of what kicked off the Rocky Mountains at the time. So because of that instant, Haru are shown here, he leads the practice in Edmonton, and Reigetsu, Kathy here, leads the practice group in Lethbridge from Raymond. It's been a wonderful journey, especially when I learned that Raymond, they had a first Buddhist church over there. I saw the building. So
Canada.
In Canada,
Yeah.
in Canada. It's just so it's been amazing. Yes. So it's a little bit of a background for me, and let's see. Yes, so I'm a language teacher. I work as a translator, and I work as one of the unfaithful bureaucrats. So all my friends, colleagues know this. Yes. But however, being a translator has been giving me a great opportunity to translate for this head priest, president. And these are not just the positions or ranks, they're there for very good reasons. So this is, for example, I think the newsletter from the head priest who's coming actually to Los Angeles this May. Name is Shuko Ishizuki from Sojiji Monastery. I'm not going to go too much details. Sotoshi has two head temples, Eiheiji by Dogen and Sojiji by Keizan. And I always explain this. We call Dogen as a father-like figure, integrity, preserving the tradition. I should no, probably not a right gesture here. upholding the tradition, right? All right. And the Keizan is like a mother-like figure who's like kind of gives a very kind of a down-to-earth explanation. So what do you do if your head starts to be itchy, or if you can't concentrate? So there's a little more kind of a compassionate elements. And the temple was relocated to Yokohama, which was a very international city at the time, with the intention to reach out to different countries. So Sotoshu always has these qualities. One is solid, almost uncompromising, sometimes forbidding, especially to the monastic training. And yet, there's a way to reflect the Mahayana spirits of, so how do we do this for people who can't sit or who can't do this? So these two kind of directions are always there. And we're kind of somewhere in the middle. So you'll find priests who are kind of this edge, like it's all about sentient beings, it's all about serving people. And there's one extreme where it says, no, this is all about preserving the ancestral legacy and footprints, uncompromising. And these are both the quality of Soto Zen. And I believe in all Buddhist communities, we have these two elements. And how to balance these two things has always been a challenge. It's a challenge for me personally, but it's what makes this practice interesting. As you might know, Zen is so much like Theravada in one sense, yet we have Mahayana Buddhists at the same time. So I'd love to hear your thoughts actually, but it's my turn, so hopefully we get to take turns eventually. So let's see, what I was going to share. I was going to share a few things. One thing I want to share, well, let's see. I can't skip head priest message. So I'm just going to go to the points. Shoaku maksa shuzen bugyo. That's the word. So refrain from wrongdoings, commit to do good things. This was the word, yes, Donin Osho. It was when responded by a poet, Hakurakuten, when he was asked what's the essence, most fundamental thing about Buddhism. And of course, you probably know the story. Like that's something even a 3-year-old kid understands, knows. And then Donin Osho says immediately, right, a 3-year-old kid can tell the difference between what's wrong and what's good. But to actually practice this is really, really difficult for even an 80-year-old grown up. So to know and to practice, there's a huge, huge discrepancy and gap between. So please do not make the Dharma a beautiful artwork placed on the wall. That's the message I got to express. So. And there's a Sojiji temple. It's not Eiheiji. They had a first abbess, woman director, which was unprecedented for this very kind of, according to American people, patriarchal system. I mean, and Shindo Aoyama is the name. She's the director, one of the directors. She's a wonderful Dharma teacher. She was quoting the teaching from Kodo, um, last name, so it was um, Sawaki Kodo Sawaki, that when all the charcoals are kind of spread around, it's kind of starts to kind of get a little weaker. But then when the charcoals are kind of placed together, it has the power to burn the whole temple. And I guess he compared that as a Sangha. So when Sangha has kind of shares the kind of heat it generates a certain energy or heat, collective. So that was a message from Harvard this year. And there's another one, just kind of sharing this small chunk of message from all these different roshis. Another one was not from the directors of Sojiji, but it's actually the son of Shinju Suzuki, who started San Francisco Zen Center. His name is Hoitsu Suzuki. And he shared with me the experience of his father leaving for the United States. I think he was already 20 after the training was over. When Shinju Suzuki said, I want to go to the United America to sit with American people, he asked his father, like, why do you have to go to the United States? You can do this practice here. And I forgot, to be honest, like how he replied to his son. But anyway, he was reflecting on that moment when Shinju Roshi was leaving for the United States. And here he is, Hoitsu Roshi is practicing Dharma in his temple called Rinso-in in central Japan. He is one of the leading leaders, instructors of Eiheiji head temple. He often is invited to San Francisco Zen Center or Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, where they have a close connection with the roots of Soto Zen. They maintain that. Despite some love and hate relationship that happened in the past, there were some complex things that happened. And yet they maintain this. And it's Hoitsu Roshi. Actually, they were looking for some translators, and then I happened to be available. And he shared this message a little while ago. So as we celebrate the beginning of the new year, the beginning of spring, here we are, we're celebrating this. And at the same time, you look around, there are people suffering from wars, earthquakes, health issues, family issues, sufferings all over. That's the thing, right? If you go to Vancouver, they talk about this residential school thing, indigenous people. So it's important, he said, to think about them and to pray for their well-beings, send them good wishes, pray for their happiness, like loving kindness meditation does. And he said, it is really important to think about that. Here we are, we celebrate, we go on with our life, but we also keep these people in mind, hold them in our heart. And he shared this poem, which I can't quite quote because I was translating, but I can share the gist of that, which was the way of the house. That's how we say, kafu, the way of the mountain, way of the house, is to practice this single day like the pure white snow, like the white plum waiting to blossom, and the moonlight. So that's his way of telling us how to move on with all the sufferings. And that's usually how Zen people respond to suffering. We move on by practicing Zen, by living this day, single day, just like the pure white snow, like the blossom of the white plum and the moonlight. This can be left to you how you interpret this, but that was his message. So I hope you can kind of chew on that. I had to chew on it for a while. So yeah, we had to stop that talk there, but I was That's what's the gist of his message. And as for myself, I think what I think I offered recently was this um, story. What makes Soto Zen is interesting. I'd love to hear more about your school. I truly, truly appreciate everything that Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh and two great teachers, also Dalai Lama, um, their exile, how that contributed to this flourishing of Dharma in North America. I think all of us owe a huge, we all owe them, their presence a great deal. I felt it that way in a certain way because I served the Sangha once discriminated after World War II, after World War II. And that delayed. Soto Zen emphasizes the significance of, interesting thing is a cook, someone who stands in the kitchen. And that comes from Dogen Zenji's experience. He was an aristocrat. He comes from a very good family. And he stepped into this path of training to the monkhood. He was very intelligent, as we all know from the records. As he went to China, he met this well-experienced monk coming down to the port to buy some Japanese shiitake mushroom. Now he would ask him, like, why someone like you, was definitely looking important to the Sangha, coming down to get this. It's like finding some Roshi doing a grocery shopping for your Sangha. Like, why are you doing this? And he also met on other occasions of Roshi drying. So there are several versions of drying seaweed, I think. Mushroom. It can be either, yeah. Doing the work outside in the hot sun. So those are the experiences that he had, and realized that the practicing Dharma is not about just studying, pursuing this intellectual kind of improvement or understanding, but embodiment of this. So for all these reasons, I think it was a culture shock for him, because Buddhism in Japan was still something shared, like as object of like intellectual pursuit or intellectual stimulation. Something that was reserved for people nowadays, what you might call white collar people. So that was for these reasons, when he came to Japan, he specifically instructed us how to cook, the attitude that we maintain. And this is also reflected on how we eat. So eating the meal is also seen as a good practice. Now it's been handed down for 100 years. So when kids like us, right after college goes there, we were at McDonald's a few weeks ago and go to monastery. And then we have this set specific rules, and we do struggle with this, because just you have to follow one rule after another. But when you live there, the food tastes really, really good. I think it's because I used to think because there's no other entertainment, food becomes a central thing. But it is truly, it tastes good. But then, there's a head of the kitchen we call Tenzo. And I often say, I think I said this in another Sangha, they're like the engineer of Toyota. Like, they know what it is all about, but they rarely say anything. And there's a representative who talks on behalf of these people. They're very talkative, who can say things in a beautiful way. I was actually one of them. And I felt really bad. Because my friends, some of them are transferred to this kitchen. And there's sometimes a true kind of embodiment of Dharma happens. And so just specific as I get into details, to make a meal for the Dharma is to fully harmonize the six flavors. And you have to help me. I keep forgetting. One is bitterness. The other one is sourness. The other one is spiciness. Then sweetness. Now, what am I missing here? Oh, saltiness. Yes. So those are 5. And then on top of that, there's another one. I always jokingly say that the other one is not umami. That was recently found by I was not it's not umami. The other one is called awami, which means faint, subtle. That's the only way I can translate subtle flavor. And it's also the original flavor. So if you go there as a dignitary, as a guest, you get served. The meals are really good because there's a nice combination of bitterness, sourness, sweetness. It's really good. So putting that aside, they also serve a meal where they just put the carrots as carrot. Shiitake mushrooms, nothing added, and it's served as they are. That way we kind of enjoy its original flavor. Then when we eat, we kind of hold it up high and we eat it like this. And I understand it's a Japanese culture. If you do this in Korean culture, I know it's not appropriate, right? It's Korean, I think you have to keep it on the table. But the gesture of this and gesture of this eating is upholding, respecting the original flavor, what's served. There's a certain rule about serving the Dharma, the Sangha with the meal. And I think it's true. The flavors are harmonized, and the original flavor is there. It's really good. Especially the rice tastes good. I didn't realize. I used to like to catch ketchup on top of rice, but no, it doesn't happen there. But so that's something that we talk about as a practice for the meal practice. But then we always see that as a metaphor for our practice in terms of relating ourselves to zazen, to zazen, Zen meditation, Zen practice, or to chanting, or to bowing, how we relate to it. There's all kind of things. I mean, of course, you get a little painful, you get a little discomfort, you get a little kind of sometimes get ecstatic when everything somehow is going well. Those all things combined, that's just all as one. It's there. And then there's that 6th flavor of subtlety, which requires a certain amount of kind of patience. And the patience in Buddhism is definitely not like, here we are, we're kind of suppressing this, we're making a sacrifice here. It's not really that kind of patience. Some people use constancy as translation. And my own analogy is that it's that kind of patience. Again, I shared this in Rocky Mountain. It might not be a good example, but I used to live in a remote rural area. There were hunters, and they wait sometimes in the spot for hours, sometimes for days, and they just wait. And then when the mountain decides to offer, then they come. So the hunting takes place. I heard about this from the elders in the village. Like, I'm sure these indigenous people live the same way of life too. So it's that kind of patience that Zazen practice requires us, and we sit. And that's also, we put that in the context of interpersonal relationship too. And we tend to add flavors, additives, which is often our notions. So for that original flavor to come out, to allow that original flavor of the personal Sangha practice to come out, we need to sort of have that, not just a formality, not just little, superficial thing, but just little let it come out. And that's subtle difference makes a big difference, I think. And I couldn't quite do that well when I was in the monastery, so I had to struggle. But that's the 6th flavor that I was talking about. I don't want to take away too much of your time. What time is it now? It's 10 after. Okay, well, let's go. Yeah, then let's stop it here, because I'd love to hear from you, your perspective. So thank you. I'll stop it here.